What's up guys, it's your boy Rich here, live at the venue where we will be having LAmicroLUX, and one of our participating brands will be Melbourne Watch Company. So let's go take a look at one of their newer models, the Avalon. Let's go. And here is one of Melbourne Watch Company's newest models, the Avalon, in 42 millimeters, 50 millimeters from lug to lug, 11 millimeters tall, and with a 22 millimeter lug width. And I think we'll be able to tell right off the bat that the Avalon is a little bit more aggressive in design than some of Melbourne Watch Company's previous models, starting with the very aggressive and angular lugs, the bead blasted finishing, which gives this nice matte gray finishing versus the more traditional brushed or polished finishing. And the very aggressive dial. I think all Melbourne Watch Company's dials are known to be really rich and have these multi-layered dials, and the Avalon is certainly no exception. But on the Avalon, on the center of the dial, we see this really cool shuriken pattern. And shuriken is basically a Japanese hidden weapon, or more commonly known as what we see in the old ninja action movies with those flying deadly stars. And, you know, that's an interesting choice that they used on the center of the dial. But I think that's really cool. I think that is a very fun and very detailed looking dial. So when I talked about some of this being a little bit more aggressive than some of Melbourne's previous models, here's the Porti triple calendar, which is one of my favorite models. You can see that it has the more traditional lugs, the very multi-layered dial, and a all polished finishing here versus the Avalon. We can clearly see the big difference in the lugs. So let's return back to the dial, because this is a really attractive multi-layered dial. In addition to the nice shuriken pattern, there's a lot of layers on here with these discs and a nice chapter ring, creating these multi-layers. And the hour and minute hand reach the proper distance. The seconds hand reaches all the way to the chapter ring with a nice red tip. The date window has a nice black background. The indices are applied with a nice shiny finishing. This is just a really well-proportioned and attractive dial. And I also really like the bead blasted finishing. This is something a lot different from a lot of the finishes that we are used to. The crown is protected by the crown guards. And if there is one area that I might have to nitpick on the Avalon, it would have to be the crown, because it is a little bit on the smaller side that is sandwiched between the crown guards. For me, for someone with normal size fingers, whatever that means, it's not a problem. But I can see it being a little bit of a challenge if you have wider or bigger fingers. But once we pull the crown out, it's a non-issue. But you can tell here that it is a little bit on the smaller side between the crown guards. The sapphire crystal is actually a domed sapphire crystal, which is really nice. There are some elements of the Avalon that would probably be best described as a hybrid between a nice field watch and the earlier pilot watches. Melbourne Watch Company describes this version as classic, but it is also available in an all-black version as well. I think this is a great time for some wrist shots, so Mickey will keep you company, and I'll be right back. The leather strap on the Avalon is a nice Napa strap. It's a really nice quality. It's more of the traditional pilot's type of strap with the metal rivets right here. It uses the quick release system, which means that we don't need any tools when we're swapping out the strap. So here, I'll show you how it's done. We just have to slide this over, and voila, the pins are right here on the strap, and they just go back into the holes between the lugs. So here, let me put them back in. And voila, that's it. So it's really easy and convenient whenever we have these types of straps. So we are seeing a really nice and attractive case back. So what is this movement that we're seeing that's powering the Avalon? Well, it uses the Swiss Solida 200 movement with a nice custom rotor right there. Really attractive case back, in addition to the movement, the really nice pattern there on the case back. So if we compare that movement with earlier what I showed you, the Porti triple calendar, which I believe uses the Miyota 9015 movement. Whether we consider that an upgrade or not to the Swiss Solita 200 is really more of a preference. I like both movements. I think the 9015 is a really excellent movement, but I've also had great experiences with the Solita movement. The retail price for the Avalon is $850, and for that, we're getting one of the more aggressive type of Melbourne Watch Company's models than what we're used to, with a nice bead blasted finishing, which I'm a really big fan of. It doesn't capture our fingerprints. It has the nice domed sapphire crystal. There is the raised badge of Avalon above 6 o'clock. This is a really obviously well-made watch that is different from some of their other offerings. All of the Melbourne Watch Company's watches come in these really nice wooden boxes with the push release where the watches go. So if we're looking for a little bit different type of watch than what we're used to from Melbourne Watch Company, then I think the Avalon fits that really nicely. Oh yeah, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time.